Hola, happy Friday. What's up, what's up, what's up? Ooh, that sounded like I had gas. It's not gas, it's sparkling water. What's up? Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Alam, Shikari. Hope I said that right. What's up? I am Sariri. Camilla Hurley. What up? Flor de Pradera. Sonica Gamlier. What's up, Just Intentions? Hi, dude. Hola, Brownward Makeup. What's up, Pina Carlotta? Ooh, that's good. That's pretty good. That's great. Jenna. What's going on, O'Donnell? Julie. What's up, Myrtle Beach? What's going on? What's up, what's up, what's up? So, I wanted to share a little bit of stuff. You know, my team was like, you got to share a little more stuff that's happened with you with attachment and all the things. But before I get into that, yeah, isn't that so true? I finally figured out my long-term boyfriend's avoidant and everything makes sense. Yes, once you learn about the behavior patterns of how we deal with relational insecurity, you all of a sudden get a little more understanding, and then you don't demonize it as much because you start to see that someone pulling away when there's conflict really is just trying to protect themselves. Someone trying to chase you down when there's conflict is really trying to, protect themselves. Does an anxious attachment mean codependent? It doesn't not mean codependent. It doesn't. It's like, yes, all relational patterns operate in that way. You could say that the majority of anxiously attached people are, when they get triggered, so fight, flight, freeze, fawn, when they go into that state, they more go into fight or fawn. Not fight as in, but fight as in chase, right? And someone who F's off is avoidant, right? Someone who runs, flees, right? And they might fight too. But fawning and chasing, like anxiety-induced chasing, are both, they're both styles that would be more correlated to anxiety. And the type that runs away, pulls away, you're trying to protect yourself, right? Because this conflict has been coded as unsafe. So you shut down, you might not be able to get words, maybe your words were stifled when you were young, maybe you weren't allowed to speak, maybe when you spoke, you were gaslit by your parents. How do you stop being avoidant? I mean, that's what the whole course is about. I wish I could, solve it in this next 30 minutes. Fawning is people-pleasing. It's like going into trying to repair. You'll notice it. You know where people fawn a lot? Is they fawn when they get pulled over by the police. Hello, sir. Hi. You do it when you go to border guards. You do it when people like that. And the course starts on September 8th. And the early bird ends on Sunday. So let's get into some details. So first off, I had the privilege, let's call it that, the other day, of looking at my friend's Bumble. And I was looking at the profiles. Now, this is a woman, and so I was looking at male profiles. And I was like, first off, Bumble, we sort of like say that Bumble's the better one of the dating apps. I don't really think there's much difference. I think the well-done job of marketing that Bumble's done is that if someone messages you, you get to choose if you're, like, I think the woman has to initiate the communication. And, that does certainly give the woman the power in they're choosing who they reach out to and who doesn't. But think about that. If you're on Tinder and you match with someone, you get to choose whether to write them back. So really, you're still in control. So I don't really understand that that sort of positioning. But I can understand that not getting inundated with lots of messages would be nice. And as you said, Bumble is terrible because a lot of men already don't reach out. Listen, if someone's not reaching out to you, the best thing to do is not worry about them not reaching out to you. Because that's the whole point of dating, is to find someone who wants to message you. And, I really like Hinge, because Hinge has the designed to be deleted. I really like that branding. I think that's really well done. The creator of Hinge. His story is on that podcast, How I Built This. And the first episode of Modern Love, this series that is on Prime, it might be on something different where you're from. That one is really fantastic. It's a really cool sort of origin story, and I love the birth of it. And I love that it really is not trying to get you more matches, but a significant match. So, I'm looking at these profiles the other day, and I'm like, do you guys even try? Like, you just have to kind of try to have a good dating profile. Like, I'm looking at them, and I'm not even exaggerating. 99% of the profiles I saw, I was like, these are shit. I would swipe left so fast to 99% of them. When I wanted to get a job when I was 22, I'd never had a job, like a career job. I'd been in sales. I worked at like the Best Buy of Canada. It was called Future Shop. I was good at sales. And I was like, shit, I could get a job in pharmaceutical sales. So I went and go apply. And people are like, you need to go get experience selling photocopiers. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going to sell photocopiers. No offense if you sell photocopiers. I just didn't want to. And so I was like, no, I'm going to get a job. And they're like, you're too young. You don't have a medical degree. You don't have a bio degree. I'm like, okay, I'm still going to get it. And I went to this headhunter, and he said to me, you're not going to be able to get a position. And I said, in 1 year, I will come back to you, and I'll have you help me find a different job after I'm done getting my first one. And I said, mark my words, I will get one. So I go network, right? I start meeting with like any rep I can meet with, pharmacists, doctors. I ask them what they think about reps, etc. I put in the fucking work. And I meet with this one director of sales from a biotech company. And he says to me, for every job, there's like 500 to 1,000 applicants. He's like, and you got to be the one penguin in the chicken coop. And I was like, huh? And he's like you have to be able to stand out in a way that other people don't stand out. You have to do something that's different that other people don't do. So if you're applying for jobs and you're just handing in your resume and your resume is not cool, it's not unique, it doesn't have a video, you're not being creative, you're not going to get the fucking job. If it's a job that everybody wants, you got to become like not everybody, right? You have to become very unique. The purple cow, right? Which is Seth Godin, right? And so this is the work. And the same is true. Like, I think a lot of people don't put in the effort when they're on a dating app because they don't want to experience rejection. Well, I didn't really try. Like, I saw one picture where the guy just takes a selfie with his coworker. Great, that's awesome that you got a cool coworker. You're probably sitting there in your car and you're like, I should start a dating profile. He's like, get the fucking guy out of your picture. No one knows who it is. No one knows which person's dating app, who's on it. Right? Are you matching with two? I mean, maybe that was possible. Maybe you're like a dating duo and you tag team. I don't know. But my point is, all you gotta do is write a little bio about yourself, be funny, put in something humorous, express your character. But I saw the guy's main picture is him just mowing a taco. I love tacos. But you're not putting in an effort. There's a great line from Dan Savage, who's a great relationship columnist. And he said, I think everybody's got to pretend to be, like, the whole job in relationship is to be your best lie self. That when you go on a first date, you're pretending to be a better version of you. You're pretending to be a way better version of you. And your goal is to attempt to be that person. To actually bring forward. Because you got to think, who you're bringing on that date is someone you think someone would like. So you're pretending to be what someone would like. Just be what someone would like. Actually step into it. And it's like, I can tell you, after sitting at a table with a couple really incredible single people, that when you're not putting in effort, you're missing out on those really incredible single people. And then you're going to blame the app, and you're going to blame all the other shit when you didn't even take the fucking time to invest in something that's so important as the partner you're going to have for potentially the rest of your known days. Let's just say that. And I say that in whatever context known days mean. And I'm not available. I have an incredible partner named Kylie. So, when I was on dating apps, though, back in the day, I put in an effort. I put in profiles. I took the time. I took pictures with doing stuff I loved. Picture, you should always have a picture with a dog. I don't know if a cat works the same. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think cats work as well. And I don't know who to blame for that. But let's just be honest. Let's just call it how it is. And you should get a picture doing shit outside. You should you should put in some effort. And I was just straight up. Like, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I'm about. And if you're into that, awesome. And when someone says, I don't know what I'm looking for, bullshit. One, they're probably afraid to claim it because they're afraid you won't want what they want. And so they're trying to get whatever they can. Or two, they haven't taken the time to get to know what they want. So if you haven't taken the time to get clear on what you actually want in a relationship, you're going to accept anything. And you know whose fault that is? Yours. Not mine. Because I'm telling you, take the fucking time. Take the time to get to know. And like men with pictures of them traveling only. I think the big one was like people with tigers, right? Tigers and a fish. But like if you're into fishing, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you shouldn't just be in sunglasses. If you're shirtless in a mirror, left swipe all day. I hope that left swipe swipes you into a closet to put a shirt back on. Because, when people are overtly selling their bodies on a dating app, there's often, listen, if you're into fitness, you don't have to have a close-up of your abs. People know you're into fitness. They know by the way the clothes sit on your body. They know when you're out hiking. They know. But when you got your ass all up in the screen, basically you set up the selfie stick so you're like, just hanging at the beach. You're not just hanging at the beach, pulled that swimsuit way up the old ass, probably got a little Hershey streak on it, And then you got the people who are just like, oh, my shorts were almost falling off when I took this picture in the mirror. Like, ooh, just finished bench press. Like, come on. Like, it's just so contrived. It's so trite. And what it does is it just shows that there's still an attachment of self-worth to those things. Like, I think that you'll pick me or you'll want me because of this thing I have. And so that's the way I'll trap you. And so then I'll get you, but then because my security is attached to your desire of what I have, my body or whatever it is, then I won't feel like I have you. Like if I, put on a COVID-19 or whatever, now I'm probably going to get some warning because I said that. Fuck, that stuff drives me bananas too. Like you're gonna feel like your partner might leave you because you put on a COVID-19. And listen, we're all gonna fluctuate, we're all gonna do our thing, but we have to, it's like pickup artistry. Pickup artistry teaches you how to act like you got your shit together. It tries to teach you to pretend like you got your shit going on. Here's the thing. What unavailability teaches is that you have high self-worth because you got other shit going on. Well, if you don't have other shit going on and you're just pretending like you do by acting unavailable, then when you actually get a partner, all of a sudden you're going to have nothing to do except for chase them. Just like when you are in dialogue with someone and you're pretending like you are cool and nothing phases you, shit phases everybody. But I saw this the other day. This person acted like they knew. My friend went on a date with this person. They acted like they got their poop in a group, but then when they experienced rejection, they lose their shit because their poop is not in a group. Their poop is hiding behind they're pretending that they've got it together. Their coolness, yeah, I read that book. Yeah, I did that thing. Who are you? Who are you being? How do you show up? Can you dialogue? Can you face rejection and still hold your shit together? Because you're going to be rejected. You're going to experience it. But that tells you that if you're rejected and you lose your shit, then that means that your self-worth is still in the hands of other people choosing you. You know? Think about that. If you can't handle rejection, it's because you still haven't processed an early life rejection. Something where you didn't feel included or enough or lovable enough. And no amount of editing of your body or face or steroids or any of that shit will fix it. None of it. No face tune-ups, none of that. Because that's all the external work so you don't see within. Look, I used to take a hair loss drug. I stopped taking it about 8 years ago. Because I had this moment where I was like, why am I taking something that is potentially going to cost me biologically, right? It's going to cost me biologically. Because there's nothing free. If my hair wants to go, let it go. But I value the vanity of hair, that if someone chose me because I had a full head of hair, not a couple cul-de-sacs, that just to add character, and you can do a U-turn on my forehead, you should be grateful. And so I remember just having this moment like, every time I take this, I'm saying that who I am is not enough. That me as I am is not enough. So the very act of doing the thing, whatever your thing is saying I don't like me as I am. Now granted, there are obviously caveats to all of this. And there are obviously exceptions. But yeah, when I stopped taking it, my hair stayed in the same place. My self-worth grew. Because all of a sudden I was like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I just shave my fucking head. And then I'll be like a dolphin. You know, I'd shave it, dive in the water, sheen. Put a little coconut oil on that bad boy. Slick. So, you know, I say all that as a little intro. That put in some fucking effort. Take some time. If you really want a beautiful, loving, amazing relationship, put in the fucking effort. Become the kind of person who creates that relationship. Not someone who chases it, not someone who expects it to just fall on their lap, but someone who it is naturally going to step into their life because they're part of it. That's the way you need to think about it. That it's not just going to fall on your lap, you create it. When Kylie and I originally broke up, I wasn't afraid about being able to find a relationship again because I wasn't going to find one. I was going to create it. I was going to match with someone who had the similar desires for growth, expansion, humility, someone who wants to learn about themselves and how to be better. And if you can find someone like that who really cares about knowing that you telling them feedback actually makes them a better partner and vice versa, because you're going to receive some if you're given some. That the gift is there, that is the beauty. To be able to hear that and to know that you both are committed to a similar path, but your relationship itself is not a prison. You know, there's a great line from Ted Lasso the other day, which new episode dropping today. I forgot about that. Great line from it, where I can't remember the guy's name, the British, manager or whatever he is. Very funny. And he said, you know, Beard, you're a great man. But my question is, does she make you greater? And I've been really thinking about that line a lot because I think that line is everything. Do they make you greater? Do they make you greater? And I would never ask for this from a narcissistic partner. I see that. Try asking for this with a narcissistic partner. No. Because a narcissistic partner can't receive feedback. So I would swipe left and move on. Because no one's going to change someone who can't even see, because their protective mechanism is to have an inflated sense of self-worth. So why would you be with someone who can't even receive feedback? Who has all the protective mechanisms and the gaslighting often our work is to leave that. It is hell. I get it, and my heart goes out to you. And stop trying to push a big rock up a big hill. Stop trying to get people to be things they are not. Stop trying to change people. You know? Okay. So when I first learned about attachment, because this for sure is the most important shit I've ever learned, and just like why it was probably about 8-9 years ago, and I read the book Attached, and I never really had a context to what my behaviors were. Like when I would start dating someone, I would get anxious about like where do I fit, and like maybe over pursue a little bit, push them away. I knew that was possible. I'd done that before. I'd sort of like, what is the right word? Maybe like have a cascade of like too much. I would be too much because I was interested, especially if they were like a very desirable person who maybe lots of people desired. I didn't believe I didn't believe I was worthy of them. And so when I learned about anxious attachment, I was like, okay, this actually makes sense from a behavioral perspective. I get now why I do that thing. And okay, and then so I would have said that growing up I was more secure. I was afraid of conflict though, and that was like just a recipe for disaster. I didn't really stand up for myself. I didn't have good boundaries. I'm sure my partners were just sort of waiting for me to finally be like, enough is enough. Like, that's enough. And I remember after being very heartbroken, just like the most devastating breakup, I remember a month after that just being in a place where I was like, I didn't even know that you could hurt that much. And you know, the way I sort of processed that is I didn't. I sort of found solace in the bottom of a pint glass, as I've said before. I avoided it. I started to go out. I started to do things I'd never done before. I became like a make-out bandit, you know, on the dance floor. And then I sort of prided myself in that, like, oh, I made out with a couple chicks on the dance floor. Really, I was, when I look back, you know, I might have been named a player or something like that, but I was very honest with where I stood, what I was afraid of. As soon as someone got close to me, I would run after that breakup. Like if someone really a good person loved me or cared about me or was interested, as soon as there was any closeness where they were starting to actually see me, I would run. And in that, you know, I look back now and I just see how much fragility I had, how much fear I had that they would actually see how delicate I really was. And I thought things like having frosted tips or being charming or being athletic would hide that. You know, that they would hide the truth that I really felt a real lack of self-worth. And you know, when I dated a woman for 5 years, it was just incredible in that time. And I really never let her love me. Never. And she could have, for sure. And I don't regret the relationship ending or anything like that. You know, a lot of people would be like, oh man, you need to go back and, would you go back and change that? I wouldn't go back and change anything. Yeah, you know that saying, hurt people hurt people. But of course, I was a wound match for the other people too. You know, you have to think about that. Like the other people were a match for my wounds. They were tolerating my inconsistencies. They were falling in love with hope. They were doing the same thing. They were just on the other side. And, you know, when I've been on that other side too, and when you're on the other side, you have a little more of the power of being the victim of the experiences, which is not to victim blame, but to say that we are choosing what we're choosing. Everything that is in your life got there because you said yes to it. And so this is about taking responsibility for what we choose. So I'm at this point after I end that relationship of 5 years, we get engaged, I'm terrified. I was like, I don't want to get married, I don't know why, and I end the engagement. But that was the birth of this relationship. work of teaching it. Is all of a sudden I'm like, why did no one teach me this? I remember ending that engagement, and let's be honest, I was 27. I was right on course. I was 27. I was taught, I went to a Catholic school, so I learned, get married by 27, have kids by 30. Here is exactly the vision I was taught. Let me tell you what I thought my life was going to be when I was in grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, up until that moment at 27. Is I thought I would be a good husband, and I'd be able to buy a house and a car and take care of my family. And that's what I thought life was about. That's what I thought my purpose on this planet was about, and that makes me sad to think of, because so many people are indoctrinated into this idea that you are just a pile of flesh with a heartbeat that just happens to be here, and your job is to fulfill a gender role and fulfill a role in society. And then you wake up. And you wake up for whatever reason you wake up. You have a feeling that says there's more to life. Am I settling? Is there supposed to be more to this? That was the feeling I had. Am I supposed to be more excited about being engaged? I got to the moment I was always taught to want engagement. Right on cue, 27. And I didn't want it. And I thought, fuck, why don't I want it? The whole lists are checked. I'm a pharmaceutical rep. Check. And that's a whole other story. My partner is amazing. Check. I have a house. Check. I have a dog. Check. I'm happy. Am I? So when I ended the relationship, I felt like something was wrong with me. Like, because society goes, well, you can't leave it. Why would you leave? You're afraid of commitment. That's what people said to me. You're afraid of commitment. And I could tell you when that ended, I was pissed. I was pissed because, one, I'd spent a whole bunch of money, and I'd gotten to this place. I bought a ring. I did all these things, and I did all of that because of the momentum of society that says you're supposed to do all of that. And so that launched me into this huge moment of self-discovery. I read this book. I was talking to Kelsey Grant yesterday, because the book that woke her up. And why did I leave? That's a great question. I left because I couldn't do it. It just, I just couldn't do it. And I was going to be bringing someone else's life down that path when I wasn't a full body yes. And the reason I ended it actually is because I posted on this forum, and this woman asked me 3 questions, and it was amazing because when I went to people in my life, they said, you got to do it, don't end it, blah, 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 blah. And I realized that people in your life who are influenced by the choices you make will give you advice that minimizes the impact on their own life. And did I love myself? No, I hadn't touched the grief of my big breakup. I'd been distracting myself from that the whole time. I was avoidance, right? The avoidance of grief, the avoidance of pain, because relationship is associated with pain. I used to be anxious, then I'm becoming avoidant because closeness was connected to pain, suffering, betrayal. So it wasn't just cold feet, because if it was just cold feet, we wouldn't be standing here, would we? Because that woke me up. I was afraid. I wasn't afraid of marrying her. I was afraid of closeness. No one taught me how to relate. No one taught you how to relate till you learn it, right? You have to go into the pains. You have to go and explore the things that have occurred in relationship. Our wounds occur in relationship, and that's where they get healed. You have to find the things that get in the way of closeness. And so I read the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And that was the first time I ever thought that I'm here for more. I'm here for more. I'm actually not just a pile of fucking meat, a meat bag with a heartbeat. I'm actually here. I'm here for something. I didn't know that you could be here for something. But, Viktor Frankl, who was in Nazi concentration camps and a psychiatrist, wrote that book and about the experience that when man has a why, he can get through any what. When a human has a why, they can get through any what. And he has that line, to live is to suffer, but to survive is to find meaning in your suffering. And when you do that, right, you feel the depth of humanity. The questions I was asked were, if she left you tomorrow, would you be okay? And I was like, yeah. I'd be relieved. Because I don't think our self-worth should depend on a relationship, you know? So that question, I think, could be misconstrued. Because I think you can be whole, happy, and complete in a relationship and very in love. But know that you'd be okay. Like if they left you, you'd be hurt, you'd experience a lot of pain, but you know you'd survive. The second question was, could you imagine what it would be like waiting for her at the altar, whatever your altar looks like? And I was like, no, that gave me anxiety. And the third was, could someone else love her better? And that was the one that got me. Yes, someone else could love her better, and she was worthy of that. And of course, the follow-up question is, did you want to? And I was like, I don't. And I don't know why, but I just know that's the answer, and she was worthy of so much more. And she found it, which is great. And I was worthy of a different feeling too. And that's why whenever a relationship doesn't work or a feeling isn't right, you always discover new information from it, right? And that, like, our own inability to fully choose something isn't just impacting us, it's impacting them too. And so you see the responsibility. Did I take her for granted? Sure. I took it for granted. But you know, at the time, you don't realize that. You know? You don't realize that. You don't realize that you're taking someone for granted, because it's not that, you know, you can obviously not appreciate something that you have. And when you don't appreciate something that you have, you only appreciate it once it's gone, or when someone else wants what you have. And, you know, what you appreciate appreciates. And so that's why we have to create cultures of appreciation in our relationships, by saying, hey, you know what, I haven't told you today. Maybe this is one thing you could do after you leave this conversation, is you can say to your parent, your partner, your friend, you know, something I haven't let you know that I really appreciate about you. I really appreciate X, Y, Z, and here's why I appreciate it. Here's the impact that behavior has. And so I was really avoidant after that, to be honest. After that relationship ended, I went back into my old patterns. And you know that saying, to get over your ex, get under the next? That is definitely not good advice. That's definitely horrible advice. Because then someone else just becomes a Band-Aid from your own wound, from your own pain. And it's not fair to make other people your Band-Aids or your masturbation tools, you know? And I remember dating this really incredible woman, and we had just started dating, and I was sitting on her couch, and she turned to me and she said, I'm really starting to like you. And I was like, oh man. And no, I don't regret not marrying her at all. Look what I got today. I got the best of the best of the best of the best, and I can appreciate it. I know what I have today. I wouldn't have known what I had then. It's the perfect time, perfect place. But yeah, she turned around to me and told me that she liked me, and my stomach got sick. And I was like, wow. Okay, and then I ran from her. And, you know, years later I would write her, because I had this awareness of, like, that I was just so afraid. I remember Kelly Marceau, who's a great relationship writer, saying to me, Grobes, have you ever actually let a woman love you? And I was like, yeah, of course I have. And then we got off the call, and I was like, whoa. I don't think I'd let anyone love me since my really harsh breakup at 19. And I was 35 when I was told that. I'm 42 now. And I was like, wow, I haven't let someone love me in 15 years. And I thought I had. I thought I was going through it. You know? I thought I was doing it. But really what I was doing was avoiding relationship. I was avoiding people who could choose me. I was choosing unavailable people, and I was unavailable to anyone who could choose me. So you could see that's where anxiety and avoidance come in, right? So, you know, as Terry Cole would say, it's a long way around the barn. But I first started to read about attachment theory in my mid-30s. And everything was just kind of coming in at the exact same time. You know, information about that, getting that question from Kelly. And I just started to realize, like, oh my God, I've like ran from people who love me, who care. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to date anyone who's unavailable anymore. Like, I have this rule. So when I got out of my engagement, the first rule I made was, I'm going to have every conversation I don't want to have, because those are the ones that matter. And so I started to have every conversation I didn't want to have. Then I adjusted that rule, and it became, I'm going to have every conversation I don't want to have the moment I feel I need to have it. Because I noticed what I really did was avoid everything. I would just avoid the conversation. I knew I needed to have it, but I just fucking delay that having it. That's way easier. We all do this. And then I made another rule when I just had this awareness that I kept choosing something that was hurting me. And I thought it was, I just made a mistake. And I realized that every time I made that mistake, I was making a choice because I'd already known it hurt me. And so I made a rule that I would always live at my highest level of knowledge. At the moment I knew something wasn't okay, I wouldn't do it anymore. The moment I knew something didn't feel right, I would act upon it. The moment I knew that I could be a better man, I would become a better man. The moment I knew that I needed to quit something, I would quit it. The moment I knew that I needed to change something, I would change it. And that was hard. That's a really hard one. You know? That's a really tough one, because that one's going to call you to a much higher level of integrity. It's going to demand from you so much more. So much more. It's going to demand you to be in full alignment with yourself. It's going to demand that you take responsibility for your whole life. You know? And it is a form of avoidance to run from people who can love you. It's a form of avoidance to not choose things that are good for you, to not choose to become expanded. You know? And that's a great question. How do you know how to act when it doesn't feel right? Leave or stay? You don't. You don't know till you choose. But unless you choose, what you're choosing is ambivalence. And a lot of people have learned to just tolerate ambivalence, to tolerate the space between lows and highs. You know, your life was not meant to be mediocre and stuck in a pattern of suffering. But so many of us are conditioned to just be in suffering. But you get to choose, right? Like you can be informed by your suffering. And do you go by a feeling? No, you can explore it. There's a great book called Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay. That's a great book to explore. And you start to look like questions like, if they changed everything about themselves, would you want them? If they became the person you wanted, do you think they're even capable? And you got to answer all this shit honestly, because anything that's not honest is just going to keep you in your suffering. It's time to connect to the real truth. If I put both stay and leave in a hat and I pulled it out, which one do you hope I'm holding? Is staying or leaving abandoning yourself? So if you stay, are you abandoning you? If you leave, are you abandoning you? And, you know, when I think about this, these are the questions that I got. So I first learned about my attachment style about 8 years ago. When did you realize you could change or heal? Oh, when I realized my patterns. When I realized my patterns, and I was like, wait, because I'd already seen evidence that you could change other things. So if you could change your food, then you could change how you feel. If you could change your exercise, you could change how you look and how you feel. So you know that there's evidence that if you choose something different, you can change it. So I was well aware of my power. And, Alan Watts has that great line where he says, when you wake up to conscious choice, you become the God you were taught to praise. And I had someone get all triggered. Well, you're not God, that's different, blah, 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 God, blah, blah, blah. Listen, the programming that we've been given that doesn't allow us to hear something that we have the power to choose something in our life. It's not saying you are a narcissistic deity. It's to say that you are connected, you are powerful, you have responsibility, you have choice, and you can literally create your world. Create it by the choices you make. I was listening to Ram Dass the other day, and he said between 200 and 500 AD, I might have the dates wrong if you're a theological historian, a theologian, you can correct me. But he said that that's when the Christian and Catholic Church separated the person from God. And that gave a purpose to the priest, because then the priest was your gateway to God, as opposed to you being able to sit down by a tree and just be connected. And know that if you choose something, your life will completely change, which says that the choices you make will create the life that you have. Right? Conversations with God, that's a great book. I forget who wrote that. What's his name? Oh, it's like a three-namer, isn't it? Conversations with God. Robert? Nah, I forget. Okay, so I started to change it. Because I started to see, okay, well, when I get anxious, I'm going to just start to ask myself, if I was secure, would I send this message? If I was secure, would I chase this person? Neil Donald Walsh, I knew it was a fucking triple name, Which I think, don't all assassins, like people who have assassinated presidents, have triple names? I'm pretty sure. Maybe they just add an extra name to have a little, like if it ever becomes a movie, it'll have a better title. I don't know. Anyways, I just remember reading that once. And that was a random fact. You're welcome for the random fact. But I started to realize that I could change it. I started to realize that with avoidance, like with anxiety, I knew that I just needed to stop chasing. I just needed to stop chasing. It literally is that simple, though. That you start to say, okay, if I was enough, and you learn how to self-regulate. You learn how to sit in your own pain. I started to do somatic therapy. I started to really explore, though, choice. Because, when we have a belief, I'm not enough, everyone leaves me, what happens is when we do that, to change that belief, you literally just need to choose its opposite. So if I look at my life and I go, okay, where's all the evidence that I don't love myself? Oh, it's in these, and you just write down all the choices you make. And then you just say, okay, well, if I loved me, what would I make as those choices then? And you just start to do that. And you'll start to love yourself. Because ultimately, you are what you choose in so many ways. And that's why your self-worth can be dissipated by one choice that goes against it. But it can be restored, and that's the beauty of it. So as you explore this and you're like, okay, well, if I'm anxious, I know I need to hold on to myself. I need to stop leaving myself, because your body, your soul stays here, and you leave it to go to connection, to chase connection. So you're leaving your body for connection. And so what you're afraid you're going to lose by losing somebody is you're going to lose yourself, right? You're not going to be enough. But by leaving your body for a connection, you actually are sending the message that you're not enough. So you stay in your body. Love yourself is vague trash. Well, love yourself is totally. That's why it's choice, right? You have to choose things that say you love who you are. To just love yourself, you're right, it is vague. It's like, what does that even mean? But to make choices that validate that you care about yourself is tangible. It's literal. You can point to choices that say you don't love yourself. You can make choices that say you do love yourself. You can invest in the specificity of this. And if you're avoidant, What avoidance really is, right, it's about relationship to space. And, Sylvie breaks down all of this with applicable actions and everything in the Attachment 101 course. She goes much deeper. She is the queen of this subject. Like, I'm touching on it, and I can, give you some info on it, but literally she's the queen of it. And I was guided by having a coach through this process. And so you've got the opportunity to do the same with the course. So with avoidance, you have to think. Anxiety is about not wanting there to be space, right? Anxious attachment. Avoidance is about needing space. I need space between you and I. So you start to think about attachment really being about navigating the space between you and them. And is the space safe and secure? That's really important. So when you're avoidant, it's getting close to people that's going to be the challenge. When someone told me they really loved me, really cared about me, I was like, because one, I didn't believe them, because how could they? And I believed that if they actually got too close to me, they would figure out that I'm not lovable. And this validated by my previous experience of closeness where I'd been really betrayed. And so do you see how I now associate closeness when I'm avoidant with betrayal? That's why you'll see a lot of avoidant patterns come from trauma, come from pain, come from unreliable parents, all that kind of stuff. And so to heal avoidance is about learning boundaries, learning how to sort of increase your tolerance for closeness, right? Your capacity is a better word. I'm getting really scared right now. Like when you told me you care about me, that really brought up a lot for me, and I felt it just feel flooded. My stomach got a little sick, and I just need to share that with you. And for someone anxious, they might go, oh God, so you don't care about me, right? So it's pretty hard. That's why the other person's wound, if you're not cognizant of both your wounds and both your attachment styles, then you'll make the repairing of the wound about you. So when I say, I'm like, this is what came up for me, and the other person goes, is it because I did this? And it's like, there's not the space to just hear it. And again, there's compassion for all this, because I've certainly done all of it. So you might sit there and be like, share, and the other person goes, thank you so much for sharing that. Can I bring up what's coming up for me when you share that? Yeah, please bring that up. And the other person can say, when you bring that up, it really brings up my fear of being rejected or abandoned, that because your stomach hurts and because you're scared of what I said, that you're going to run. And so I just want to bring that forward. And do you see that? Like, there's now a space for both people to explore that, to dance in that space. Can we do something with someone avoidant? Do we have a role in there? You can invite them forward. You can understand their circumstances, but you can't convince anybody to do anything. It's so normal for an anxious person to want to really chase that, right? Anxious in an on-off relationship with an extremely anxious. That's likely going to put you into a bit of avoidance too, But deep breaths, right? All of us can change our attachment style. All of us can, when I started to realize I could change how I related and change my attachment style, I became much more secure. Because all of a sudden I wasn't leaving me anymore, I wasn't leaving me. And I see that question, what comes up with parents and you want to avoid them? Likely your original attachment style birthed from that, right? A lot of families are really avoidant. They don't know how to talk about anything that matters. Family systems are structured around avoiding the truth generally. The elephant in the room just sits there as everyone sits around the elephant. And everyone takes on a role to be able to make it so no one looks at the elephant. And so when you start to point at the elephant in your life, you're free. You're free. When you start to point at the truth and share it, you're free. And let's be honest, there's a lot of truth to point to in the world. You look at the way the world is run, there's not a lot of truth being pointed at. And if you point at it, you might get censored, you might get canceled, you might get a lot of things. You know, like when you think about it, the modeling of taking responsibility in this world is not very big. Corporations don't take responsibility. Governments don't take responsibility. I mean, the health industry doesn't take responsibility. You know, I heard this the other day, that, like, is the model of what we're doing working? And I would say no. Is the model of what we're doing working? Nope. We treat symptoms, but we don't treat underlying issues. And the underlying issues is how we relate, how we handle emotion, how we explore emotion, how we explore relationship. And the more you point to truth, the more you claim truth, the more you take responsibility for your life, the less you're going to tolerate ambivalence and bullshit and other people and systems not taking responsibility in the world outside of you. And so it is an act of rebellion to take responsibility, to change your attachment style, to become secure. Because as you become secure, you're rooted. And you're rooted, and when you're rooted, no one's convincing you of anything. You now have become an authority over your own life. You now are like, that's not true. No, you won't convince me to do that. You won't coerce me. You won't lie to me. You just gaslit me. You just denied everything that I know is true. You just tried to cancel me. You just tried to do this. But you're so rooted in who you are. And you think about that from a context of dating. If I'm dating and I'm rooted in who I am and I'm doing the work, right? Because no matter how you're identifying, which, you know, Sylvie shares this, don't identify as your attachment style. You're prone to behaviors and strategies that have a certain attachment style. But when you're actually in this space, whatever you're prone to, and you observe it, I want to reach out. I want to over pursue. I want to pull away. But you're observing the behavior and you are no longer the behavior. You're observing the behavior. And then you're observing in your body what comes up when that behavior is there. Oh, my stomach gets a little. Oh, my throat locks up. My heart rate goes up. And what you're doing is you're learning about your body's response to potential pain and hurt. And what you're starting to do is ultimately grow up. You're learning how to adult. And so you're like sitting in this space and you're observing, and then you're choosing what you want to do. Like right now, I can observe myself having this conversation with you. I can observe the thoughts that want to come out, the ones that are coming out. And I'm present to this. I can think about what you think, about me having my eyes closed. And I can start to really observe all the messaging that comes in. I got one headphone in. What's going on? It's like a kickstand, you know? And you just sort of become the observer first. And this is such a position of power. Because from here, I'm not reacting. And you take that breath, right? Because that breath allows you a little more time than maybe you've ever taken. And just this pause, right? Can you be comfortable in this space, in that silence, in that moment that feels like a little too long? And then my thoughts come up. You might log off. You might not want to watch anymore. And the rooted part of me goes, who cares? Message isn't for them. And as you do this work, and you learn about how to become secure, what your patterns are, right? Because that's what you're doing, is you're cultivating awareness. When you take a course like Attachment 101, you're just cultivating awareness. And you're learning strategies to do different things when you start to do it. And as you learn strategies, you have other behaviors. So when I'm sitting here, I'm learning other behaviors that I then can say I'm going to go into that toolkit, and I'm going to use that tool instead of the old tool. I'm going to use the adult tool. Let's call it that. And notice when you're in this space and you're using it. Yeah, I'm back now. You're standing in the truth of who you are from that space. My battery gave me a little warning. When you're rooted in that space of just understanding, of knowing, any right turn is just fulfilling you, right? Like any choice that you're making is just deepening your relationship to yourself. And that's why, and I don't know where I went on pause, but that's why when you make a choice that goes against the grain, it feels like a swipe right, even though society is telling you it's a swipe left. Even though you might feel like you're losing what people think of you, right? Like you might not be as admired. You might not be as supported by your community. But there's a deeper knowing that you have to do that thing. That you have to make that choice. And it's in that deeper knowing that you get closer to you, closer to your soul, closer to God, closer to whatever. And that's why my work has never been about choosing to stay or choosing to go or choosing this or choosing that. My work has always been about connecting more to the truth for you. Not what I think your truth is, but what you know your truth is. If I make my work have to be about you staying together, then I will give you information that is trying to guide that. That's why so much, and no offense, but like so much of like Christian-based marriage advice is about keeping you together. And look, I think when you can go beyond the limit, like when you can get to the next level relationally, that's obviously important. And being together and staying together it's incredible. But it's not everything. Because your truth could be outside of that relationship. It could have been that you've never claimed it since you were 18, since you were 15, since you were 4. And you were told not to be funny or not to be loud or you're too sensitive. And you're finding this fire when you're older. And look, like if a relationship can expand its container to hold an expanded version of you, then amazing. Then you're on it. That's great. But if it can't, if it can't, that's okay. Because if it's not for you, it's not for them, right? And like, I look at what's going on in the world now, and it's like, get rooted. Because there's people trying to pull you out of your roots. The news is trying to impart you with fear, more anxiety, more. And what can people do with fear? They can create more compliance, more agreement. When you're not in your body, or you haven't explored death or accepted death, you'll generally accept anything that keeps you away from it. Switch off the news. That's for sure. Go for a walk. I have a friend him and his partner have different views on what's going on in the world. And I said, different views don't have to separate a relationship. They only separate a relationship when they've been moralized, or they've been correlated to a value. But we should all be able to sit in a bridge between decisions and points of view and be able to hear one another. And like even that messaging, get it if you can, or don't. Because you don't know the circumstances of the people you're saying that to. Get it or don't. Like, if it's a right fit for you, do it. If it's not, don't. And that's, we're in trying times where you can't even have that conversation. So let's all be inspired to change a few things today. to maybe build a little more security in our relationships. I thought I'd share a little more of a window into my experience with attachment. I will answer this, though. Has attachment theory helped you in your relationship with Kylie? Yes, because we both got to understand each other's attachment style and the impact that our attachment styles have on one another. That was really powerful. Has your attachment style sabotaged your relationships in the past? 100%. I shared that earlier. If you're just joining now, you can look back and hear what I said. I've definitely sabotaged relationships in the past with my attachment style. Oh my God, 100%. How does your attachment style show up today? I see myself as secure. But your attachment style isn't just to your romantic relationship. It's like to everything you do, how you work, how you relate to social media, how you relate to what you post or share, and how people might feel about that. I feel myself get pulled, right? Like someone doesn't like what I said or doesn't agree, and I feel that anxious part of me, the fawn, who wants to repair and tell them something that they want to hear and make their world feel safer and better. But that's not my fucking job. It's our job to take responsibility for ourselves, and I have to come back to that warrior that's inside that's like, no, fuck no. Stay rooted in your center. Don't leave you. Looks like I'm jerking off something here, I know. But like, stay rooted in your heart. And, it's like the other side, the avoidance, is when I get overwhelmed with it, and then I just don't want to be close to it. And that shows you that I just need a better boundary around it. And it's so human to oscillate between these things, right? I sort of think I'm like healing my anxious attachment style with the collective. And knowing that, like, I remember my sister saying when I first started writing, she was like, you're doing great work when a third of people hate what you have to say. And I was like, a third? Can we go to like a tenth maybe? Because so much of like not wanting to rock the boat was so correlated to how I showed up. And then you realize that there's this mischievous part of me that really likes rocking the boat, and then there's the other part of me that doesn't like what the mischievous part left behind. So it's like the shadow side and then the shadow side, right? Like, because one shadow side likes to disrupt and the other shadow side likes to fawn and try to repair, but you have to leave yourself for that repair. So it's like, I look at the learning of language, and you look at the language that we use, and language can be very dividing, Language can be very dividing. Language can be incredibly powerful. And so you start to explore the language you use. You start to explore who you are, how you show up. You start to explore, as I said earlier, like you learn your attachment styles and how to change them so that you can become more aware in relationships, so that you're like, there's that tendency I have. Here's that possibility I create when I do that. Here's what I'm interacting with, whether it's a partner or I'm dating, and my partner's awareness of theirs if they're also learning about it. And then if I'm dating, it's how I'm interacting with a behavior that feels like avoidance or anxiety. And how do I garner more information? What assumptions am I making that aren't helpful? And then you go to the next step of, what are the tools that I've just learned from Sylvie in Attachment 101 to be able to create more security? And then you do. And that's it, right? It is that simple, but you have to cultivate and build the capacity in the space. And so that course is 4 weeks. Early bird ends on Sunday. Sylvie's one of the most incredible teachers, and she's for sure one of the top teachers in the world in this space. So, much love, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful weekend. And maybe take a moment to just appreciate something about yourself and why you're really appreciative of that about yourself. And then to reach out to someone important in your life and to say thank you to them and something that you appreciate about them and why you appreciate it. Have a beautiful day.